And welcome to Impact 2025, our continuing conversation where we talk about all types of different topics, current events, what's going on, race, religion, controversial, pop culture, everything. This is where you can talk about these topics. This is that safe place, that open place where we can have that free conversation, that safe conversation, that real conversation. And so we invite you to do that by typing your questions and your comments into the comment section, by being a part of the conversation. So feel free to type something in, whether it be a question about the topic, whether it be a comment about the topic, whether you're saying you agree, you disagree. Give us your perspective. It's not just a listen to me talk, it is a conversation. Sometimes we have guests. Today we do not have one. We have guests. Still feel free to put in your comments and your conversation. As always, I like to remind people about the other offerings that we have here at Imani. On Tuesdays, that's today, at 7 o'clock from 7 to 7:45, we have a time of prayer. This is when people in the ministry all get together and we pray. When I say all get together, it's not that we get together physically. Everyone is praying at 7 o'clock or sometime between 7 and 7:45. You have to pray the whole time, just whenever you feel comfortable in that time. At 7 o'clock on Thursdays, we have Thursday Thirst. That's our weekly Bible study. That's our opportunity to really understand the Bible, to really dive down deep into what's going on with the Bible. I think that is extremely important for us to do so that we can know what the directions are and what we should be doing. There's a lot of people who call themselves Christians. It's a lot less people who call themselves Christians who actually understand what it means. And that's because they're not really looking at the Bible. Or the ones who do understand what it means, they are looking at the Bible and diving in at Thursday Thirst. It's one of those opportunities where we can go and find out how we should be acting, reacting, doing according to the Word of God. And then, of course, on Sundays at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on Facebook and YouTube, just like the other offerings are on Facebook and YouTube, and in person, we have worship service in person at the address on the screen. So this is the opportunity to worship together and worship God. And so feel free to join us for any of those and all of those, hopefully, all of the offerings that are being provided. And then, of course, right now, 8 o'clock on Tuesdays, we have Impact 2025, our continuing conversation. All right, as always, we try to hop into things right into it. After we give our brief intro, we want to just attack it. If you don't know what's going on today, as I've said all year long, because it's been a crazy, crazy year. We've been doing this for a long time, and this year, every time we come to the table, there's a number of different things that we can talk about. One of the reasons that we have so much craziness going on is because we have a lot of craziness going on in our leadership in the country. And as a result, you just have a lot of opportunity for a lot of different topics and a lot of different craziness to go on. And so this is no different. But what we're going to talk about today is that there's a bill that is being passed along. It's been passed from the House and the Senate. And it's not a political conversation, more so. But one of the things that is in this bill is the big, beautiful bill that's coming from the government. And one of the key components of this bill, one of the two key components, is that, one, they're going to offer a bunch of tax cuts to people who are wealthy, to businesses. They want to extend those tax cuts. So, yay for paying less taxes if you are in those categories. Also, to be able to pay for that, they have to cut a lot over $3 trillion. No, not $3 trillion. No, sorry. Over $1.4 billion, $140 billion from around the Medicaid space. Medicaid, SNAP benefits. All of these different things are being attacked or being cut in order to kind of balance out the bill. And they will fund some of these tax cuts and other things that they want to do. And so why is that important? Why are we talking about this? This political, politics, government, whatever. Doesn't really matter. What is important, though, is that some of these cuts will be coming down the pike, and it will be affecting people, regular people that we know, middle class, lower middle class, just normal, everyday people. Now, if you believe what some people are saying, they're saying, well, no, we're just cutting fraud, and we're just cutting, people who are just taking advantage of the system. That's not true. Or when you look at it, they say a couple of different things. There are a couple of extra requirements for being able to have to recertify and show and prove that you need these benefits. And what that is just adding additional red tape and additional opportunities for people to mess up, for people to mess up their paperwork, to people who have their paperwork delayed, for people to lose their benefits. Some of the other benefits are just being straight cut, especially when they're talking about the food assistance. They're talking about some of the health assistance that's being done. And this is important because what will be the response when and if, more so when, we have individuals who don't have the necessary resources that they need. Now, this has been a large cut. We are depending on who you talk about, some people say we're at the pre-COVID level of services, and some people say we're at the pre-Obama level of services. And so if you think back to Obamacare and how that was the big thing that put a lot of people onto healthcare, right now we do have the most people who are covered under healthcare that we've ever had. And that's because of the expansions of in Obamacare, expansions of Medicaid and Medicaid services and things like that. Now that's going to put us to the pre-Obama level. And so all of the little intricacies, all the little specifics, that's not important in this particular conversation. And this particular conversation is, what is the Christian response? What is the church's response to those who will need some additional assistance because it will be cut by the government? There's a big group of folk that I hear of from time to time who think that the churches should be taking care of everybody. We shouldn't be paying all of these taxes to the government because the churches should be able to go out here and we should be able to take care of everybody. And so when I hear this, then now when the time comes to take care of everybody, will the churches step up? Because here's one of the problems. Where are you getting the money from? Where are you getting the resources and the funds from? Now, you can believe that God, who has all things, will bless and provide. And that's true. But I look at these churches and I sit back and I say, well, hey, how many of you are going to spend the extra dollars, going to spend the extra money out of the current money that you have now to take care of all of these additional people who will need services? All these additional people who won't have health care, all these additional people who will lose a lot of their food assistance, all of these additional people who will lose some of their other benefits that are tied to Medicare that you don't really know about. Some of the protections also for drug prices. So when people are starting to struggle, where is all of this additional going to come from? Oh, I have a comment. Those same people don't go to church. Yeah, and you know, that's a double-edged problem here. One of the initial issues is that we always sit back and we talk about the church is going to provide to take care of all these folk. And you're right. The people who say the church is going to provide for all these folk often are people who don't go to church. And they don't know how much the church has or doesn't have to be able to, or how big the reach is. But here's the problem. The church can only see who they can see. The church can only touch who they can touch. And so if the church is active in the community and they can see a bunch of people, it's still not going to be everybody. You know, in this community that we're in, you know, as much as we go out in the community, we have community days, we've been out into the community, into the streets, been into the neighborhoods, talked to people. I don't know half the people, haven't talked to half the people, haven't seen half the people, haven't seen a quarter of the people, haven't seen 10% of the people. It's not possible for us to touch and see everybody. And so for those of us who have the resources, for those of us who want to try to do things and help everybody, we don't have the ability to help everybody in every way that they need to be helped. We may have food services that we can offer, but what about medical? We may have medical services that they can offer. What about you know, stuff that's going on medical when it's going on with your brain, with emotions, different types. If we can do physical medical, what about the mental medical? There's a lot of different scenarios and instances that I think the church can't really be expected to provide for everybody at all times. And that's why you have the government who's able to touch everybody or touch more people and has a further reach. And so when you say, well, let's have all the churches do it and take away from the government who's doing it, well, in the government, why would we do that? Why can't we both do it? Why can't we help those people who are coming to the church, but allow also the government to help those people who are not, people who may not be Christians, people who may not be ready to come to the church right now, people who disagree with how we do things as a church. Different folks still need the assistance. And so as a church now, that expectation I think is unrealistic. But even with that being said, we need to, as ministries, we're going to have to try to stretch ourselves a little bit more, because there will be one of the biggest parts is the food assistance, and that's what's really been cut back. Not only have they cut food assistance programs just for individuals, but they cut a lot of food assistance programs, sponsorships that they were doing for programs. And so we're right now in most schools across the country, due to COVID, kids eat free. Every kid that comes into the school, whether you are economically challenged or not, has the opportunity to have breakfast and lunch. And those programs were being funded throughout the country. And now that's what they're cutting. They're also trying to cut back on individual programs, summertime programs, after school programs, all these different programs that offered opportunities for kids who may or may not have food at their homes to be able to come and eat, to be able to come and eat so that they can focus on learning. It's good. It's always difficult to focus in on what you need to do when you're hungry or you're thirsty. And so being able to provide for those, whether they get food at home or not, being able to provide for these kids is a necessary part of the educational process. Being able to provide for these kids is a safety issue. Being able to provide these kids is a nourishment issue. And so the bill is cutting back. Now, we already seen what's going on across in different countries, where the United States has decided, because the government, the United States has decided to stop giving a lot of aid and assistance. The USAID program, USAID program has been dismantled, and now is a part of the Department of Defense, who has decided that it's not important to give to other countries, for whatever reason. That leans on the churches too. Now, we still have to sit back and decide or see how we can use our resources for those international ministries. Most churches that I know of don't have international ministries. Many churches do, but most don't, and don't have that reach to be able to send food and resources to the different countries. However, we're going to have to start all doing that. I think because there's so many people outside of the country who need help, we got to start doing international ministries. But there's also going to be so many people here internally that need help that we're going to have to start doing ministries when we see it. And you're like, well, how are we going to do all that? Don't know, but we're all going to have to start, because there's going to be a lot more people that need assistance than there ever has been before. When they talk about these bills and all this stuff about the economy growing, there's growing for those few who are fortunate enough to be kind of at the top of the front of the line, the top of the totem pole. But as they're cutting jobs because they are utilizing technology, AI, there's going to be more people who are at the bottom of the totem pole or the back of the line who are going to need more assistance. So we're cutting jobs, we're cutting assistance. And I guess they figure maybe if we get rid of a lot of the people, the immigrants that are here, we get rid of them, then we can put people into those jobs that they were all doing. Maybe that's their logic. That's how it's going to work. I don't think that's going to work, because different people are built for different jobs. Different people are built for different roles. I can tell you right now, there's a bunch of jobs I can't do. You put me outside and you think that I'm going to work, it's been 90 degrees every single day. You're not getting anything out of me. Like, I'm probably going to just keel over and die. And so you're not going to be able to put people, you couldn't put me in a role outside. And there's many other people, same situation. You just can't put them in different roles. And so we're going to have a lot of people struggling because they're not going to have opportunities. I mean, I've been reading report after report about people because there's so many folk without jobs, so many government employees who were cut, so many technology employees who were cut across the whole entire nation, that there's been people who've been looking for jobs, applying to hundreds of thousands of jobs, well, hundreds of jobs, not thousands of jobs, hundreds of jobs, literally hundreds of jobs, and have not been able to find anything because there's just so much. It's so many people out there that are looking for jobs and they're looking for work. And as much as people will always tell you, "Oh yeah, we got all these jobs available," blah 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 blah. And that's only if they have jobs available for the people that they want, and the people that they want may be a pie in the sky. Yeah, look, I've worked in human resources. I know how they put out. They always say that they're looking for people for jobs, and they'll have 100 people apply for the job, and they'll be like, "Well, none of those people were right. You're not looking." And so, as much as people want to say that they're looking, they're not looking. And as a result, we're going to have a lot more people who need assistance, a lot more people in need. And so, as churches, I think now what's going on as people in the church is all of us. What's going to have to happen now is that we are going to have to position ourselves to be able to handle just a little bit more. If every church does a little bit more than what they're doing now, I think we'll be a lot further along. We can help more people. But this bill that they have, whether you agree with it or not, again, don't care. Whether you agree with what's going on and how the bill is going to go through, this big, beautiful bill, or you don't agree, doesn't matter. The consequences of what the bill is going to be is a reduction in food assistance, a reduction in Medicaid, reduction in services that people need all across the board. That's going to be the result. And so what are we going to do for the people who inevitably are going to need services that they no longer get from the government, that are going to need resources that they no longer get from the government? We have to provide, and we have to figure out a way to provide. And so, to those those ministries, who want to build nice, huge buildings and have water fountains and have their facilities look all nice, I think they may need to change some of that and put those resources towards helping the community. It's a famous pastor who had been looking to get a private jet. Now, I don't know why he canceled his desire to get this private jet, probably because he just wasn't getting the money. But one of the more famous pastors had finally just sat back and was like, "Nope, I'm not gonna worry about getting this private jet," or that's off the table. And I think that's what that needs to happen across the board. Where a lot of these ministries and churches, you have some ideas and some things that you want to do. Are they really benefiting the people? Are they really helping anybody? Making sure this stuff looks extra pretty and extra fancy. I don't know if that helps anybody. It may be an evangelistic tool where it brings people in the door. I don't know. I don't think so. But I think we need to move those resources away from prettying up everything and move those resources towards helping the people that are going to need help going forward. Again, especially this food assistance part. That's really big. It's really a shame that government officials have decided to cut, SNAP, cut other food programs. And so that's where we really are going to have to help, and we're really going to stretch. And we're the church. I don't know. We got a lot of comments going in on it, but so if you disagree or agree, but we're the church, and we know what Jesus was able to do, feeding the 5,000. We know what he was able to do with food, and we're supposed to be those who are going to do greater things. So we need to make sure that we're able to stretch and do some great things with our ability to provide food and services and healthcare for others. The politicians who vote for this bill and they claim to be Christians, they need to talk about what they are going to do to make sure people have what they need. I'll tell you what I've heard from them, and they do. They need to make sure to provide. I'll tell you what they've done. They put their head in the sand and they basically say they're only stopping people who are frauds. They're only stopping people who are lazy. They're only stopping, and that's what they're cutting, people who or stuff that's unnecessary. So they think that we're sending kids to school who didn't eat. It's unnecessary to provide them with food because that's what their parents are supposed to do. we're only going to cut it back to the poorest of the poor. They can get some assistance, but everybody else, they don't need that food assistance. Some of the SNAP programs. Oh well, we're cutting the numbers, so we have to make sure less people can get assistance because we only need to get the worst of the worst of the worst. And so that's how they kind of rationalize it. They don't understand that there's a fine line between being middle class and being lower middle class and being poor. Whatever your definition are, we, all of us, unless you're just rolling in money, we are not that far apart from any. We are one bad accident, one huge medical bill, one investment mistake, one loss of a job. We're all one thing away from being in need. And so the way that they rationalize it is, you know what? All these people who say they're in need, they're not in need. And so back on, we need to stop claiming to be Christian nations. Well, here's the thing: most of them don't, and I don't think that's, I don't think that's what most of them claim. Most of them are not going to sit here and claim that this country operates on Christian principles or we're a Christian nation. Most of them, they make up their own thing. There's a couple of Christian nationalists out here who claim whatever they're claiming, but I think there's no illusion anymore. When you vote for a president who says he didn't need to repent and he's not really, when you vote for a president who's clearly stated on multiple occasions that he's not a Christian, he's not interested in that, you can be one of these people who lie to themselves and say that that's what they're about, that's what he's about. He's about Christianity. But I think everybody's pretty clear that, we didn't vote in a Christian president. We're not voting in Christian politicians. And so we're far from what it means to represent Christ and be a Christian nation. Not when we're cutting aid and services to other countries. Not when we're deporting people and roughing them up, treating them bad, we have ICE agents who are cowardly putting masks over their face so they can run out here and grab people up off the streets, treat them all bad. No, I think we've already made that decision that we're not a Christian nation. So I don't know anybody who's doing that, but if you are doing that, please stop lying to yourself and start telling the truth. We are a country that is not that far away from some of these horrible countries or horrible situations that we've talked about in the past with some of these other countries who've done some terrible things. We're right there with it, and so no, I don't think I haven't heard anybody claim recently that we're a Christian nation, and I can fervently say, from my perspective, that we are not. So, yeah, I think that should be. I think that should be across the board. That no one should be calling us a Christian nation, and we should not be calling ourselves a Christian nation. We can't do the things that we do and then turn around and call ourselves a Christian nation. I don't think that's correct. Maybe we're aspiring to be one day, but July 1st, 2025, we are not a Christian nation. That's how I feel about it. So, yeah, that was a good comment. That goes into it. I think that's the problem, and we need to, as churches, we're going to have to step up because we're not a Christian nation anymore if we ever were, and we have to step up and we have to provide for one another. Unfortunately, we have decided as a nation, as a country, that we want to put people in charge who are going to strip away the help and the resources for others. And if that is the case, then we as the church have to be the help and the resources for others, and not. Let me be clear with this to some folk. From my perspective, not to Christians only. I think that is ridiculous that we want to act like that sometimes. Look, the government is not going to do it. And so if there is whoever is in need, whether they are Christian, no faith, a different faith, doesn't matter. We need to take care of one another, whether they are legal, illegal, whatever their background is. If you need help, we need to be helping one another. We need to be showing the grace of God to everyone. regardless of who they are. Everybody deserves it, in a sense. No one deserves it, but at the same time, everybody deserves it. And so I think that's our responsibility. And that's one of the things as Christians, I think, and as that sometimes folk, we got to get over it. You know, let's just help the people. You know, we help all the Christians that help one another. No, help everybody. Everybody. And so I do know that I've had those conversations with some people, and that's their hang up. They're like, yeah, if you come to the church and you do this, and they will help you out. If you're hungry, you can get some food. If you need medical assistance, then you can get some help. Whatever you need some clothes, you come on. So, and that's what the word says. That's what Jesus said. That's what Jesus said. You know, who are my people? Where did we see you? When you saw me. When did you see me? When you saw the least of it. You saw everybody. So everybody has to be his people. Everybody is his people. So God created everybody. We got to take care of everybody. And so I think that's a responsibility and a role that we have to do. We have to clarify who we are and continue to help and assist and step our game up when it comes to helping and assist, because they are cutting back. And I know the bill has not passed yet. Maybe we want to have hold out some hope that the big bill will fail and all these cuts won't go through. But I honestly don't think that's realistic. It's already passed the House, it's passed the Senate, it's going back to the House. They're going to pass it, the final version of it, and then it's going to be signed, and we'll see what happens. All right, well, that's it. That's it. I appreciate the comments that came in. That's where we are. So we just have a high level of responsibility. We should feel a little bit of a pressure, a little bit of stress that's going to come in, because we're going to have more people that we need to take care of. So we got to step our games up and take care of them. All right. As a reminder, Amani Christian Ministries reminds you that on Tuesdays, today, 7:45, we have prayer. On Thursdays at 7 o'clock, we have a time